Welcome to the Agile Methods chapter. The focus of this Agile Methods chapter is to understand the various Agile methods, Scrum, XP, Lean, and Kanban, while also briefly touching upon Crystal, DSDM, FDD and AUP. Now let's hear from the coach for more details.
Thanks, Dave. Let me take it from here. Scrum. Scrum is a framework within which people can address complex adaptive problems while productively and creatively delivering products of the highest possible value. It is one of the more popular agile methods, whose life cycle is similar to the agile project life cycle that we discussed in an earlier chapter. To handle complex adaptive problems, Scrum uses empirical process mechanisms, which we covered in the introduction chapter. Scrum itself is considered as a project management framework and hence does not include any engineering practices. Typically, it is paired with extreme programming practices, which we shall learn later. Now, please refer to the diagram as we will be discussing about this in greater detail in the subsequent slides. The Scrum framework consists of the Scrum team, Scrum events, and the Scrum artifacts. Now, please proceed to the next slide. Scrum components. Scrum can be explained through its components: the Scrum team, the Scrum events, and the Scrum artifacts. Now let us get into more details on each of these. The Scrum team consists of the product owner, the one who is in need of the product, the development team, which is responsible to create the product, and the Scrum master, who facilitates project work including the Scrum theory and its practices. Next, we discuss about Scrum events. These include the following: sprint, which represents a time box within which an increment of work is done; sprint planning meeting, where the what and how of the sprint is planned; daily Scrum, which helps the teams to inspect and adapt; sprint review, where the product is demonstrated for feedback; and lastly, the sprint retrospective, where lessons learned are documented. Finally, we discuss about Scrum artifacts, which are the outputs of the work done. Here we discuss about product backlog, which represents the customer's requirements; sprint backlog, which is the list of items committed for the sprint; increment, which is the output of the work done within the sprint. Now that you have an overall view of Scrum, it is time for getting into even greater detail. So follow on and keep track of the discussion. If required, revise these slides before proceeding. The Scrum team. Product owner. One of the entities of the Scrum team is the product owner. The product owner is a single person and they represent the customer. It is they who manage their requirements in the form of a product backlog. Since they know what provides them the most business value, the product owner needs to determine what features get built and in what order. The product owner, with the assistance of the team, is involved in the planning sessions and in coming up with release dates and release plans. When an increment of work is created, it is they who have to accept or reject the work done, as ultimately they need to ensure profitability for the work. Also, the product owner has to arrange for funding the project work. To summarize, the product owner is involved in prioritizing, planning, accepting work, and navigating the project towards success. The Scrum Development Team. Another component of the Scrum team is the development team. This consists of generalizing specialists who are cross-functional in nature, so when required they can assist other team members. They collaborate and self-organize to ensure project work is done. In each iteration, they commit to work as a team and support each other in accomplishing it. The team performs estimation, development, and testing. As part of the sprint review, they demonstrate work that has been completed to obtain feedback. At the end of the sprint, they undertake sprint retrospective to provide lessons learned. The Scrum team's Scrum Master. Another component of the Scrum team is the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master enforces Scrum theory, practices, and rules. The Scrum Master facilitates project work through team collaboration and conducts daily stand-up meetings to enhance communication within the team and remove any barriers to their work. Scrum Master is responsible for conducting the sprint planning sessions which determine the what and how for the sprint. They teach the customer how to maximize the return on investment and meet their objectives through Scrum. Scrum Master improves the lives of the development team by facilitating creativity and empowerment, and also helps to improve the engineering practices and tools. At the end of the sprint, they conduct retrospectives and gather lessons learned as part of the continuous feedback and improvement cycle. Their role also involves serving the product owner, development team, and the organization as a servant leader. They are considered more as a facilitator than a controller, and hence this may or may not be a full-time job on the project. Scrum events. The sprint. The sprint is a time-boxed event that generates an increment of value. It is typically 1 month or less in duration. Once the sprint is committed to, the scope is fixed for the duration and no changes are allowed to the sprint backlog. A sprint may be cancelled by a product owner for any reason such as business exigencies, changing market conditions, and so on. A sprint includes all of the following activities, and they are the sprint planning meeting, daily scrums, development work, sprint review, and the sprint retrospective. Now let's understand each of this in more detail. The sprint planning meeting. The purpose of the sprint planning meeting is to answer the questions what and how. The product owner and the team collaborate to answer what will be delivered in this sprint and the team determines how to accomplish the sprint goal. Let us understand the what part in this slide and discuss the remaining in the next. In this meeting, the product owner, with the assistance of the team, presents the previously ordered high priority product backlog for consideration. Then the team discusses amongst themselves and selects work that can be done within the sprint. To encourage high-level planning, this meeting is necessarily limited to 4 hours duration. If the sprint is shorter than 1 month, the duration of these meetings can be proportionately scaled. Next, let us understand what is required for these meetings. The attendees to the sprint planning meeting include the product owner, Scrum Master, and the development team. What inputs are required for this meeting? An ordered product backlog, understanding of the team's velocity, and the team commitment for the sprint. The output of the first part of the meeting is the sprint goal. Sprint planning meeting continued. The team determines how to accomplish the sprint goal by creating a working plan of tasks and assignments in the second part of the sprint planning meeting. In this meeting, the development team creates a list of tasks, task estimates, and assignments, thus creating the sprint backlog. Therefore, the sprint backlog is nothing but the product backlog, but with the detailed development plan for the sprint. Next, the team self-organizes and splits work and creates a working plan to accomplish the sprint goal. This actually marks the beginning of the sprint. To prevent getting into too many details too early, this meeting is also limited to a maximum of 4 hours. Daily Scrum. The Daily Scrum is a 15-minute time-boxed event for the development team to synchronize activities and create a plan for the next 24 hours. This is done by inspecting the work since the last Daily Scrum and forecasting the work that could be done before the next one. Each team member attending the meeting needs to answer these 3 questions, and they are: Number 1. What was done since last meeting? Number 2. What will be done until next meeting? Number 3. Anything preventing completion of the work that the team needs to be aware of. The goal is to help improve communication, handle risks, make quick decisions, and improve the team's overall knowledge. As part of the inspect and adapt mechanism of Scrum, this is a key meeting for the team members to share information, and this is not necessarily a status meeting. Therefore, though the Scrum Master facilitates the meeting, it is actually the team members who are responsible for its conduct. This meeting can be scheduled for the same time, same place, every day to set up the habit within the team. Next, Daily Scrum scene. Let us drop in on a Daily Scrum meeting.
Please share. 1. What was done since last meeting? 2. What will be done until next meeting? 3. Any impediments to your work?
I recorded clients' needs. Today I'll work with Dr. Lucy on user stories. Getting customer FaceTime is my challenge.
I completed the database story. Today I'll complete the validation story. Just get the senior manager off my back.
I finished integrating my code with the front end. Today I'll work on testing. And I see no issues so far.
I finished writing 11 test cases. Today I need to complete 7 more. I just wish the customer would clarify faster.
I finished wireframes for the notification screens. Today I should be done with validation, and I see no issues.
We are looking good.
Scrum Events Sprint Review. A sprint review is held at the end of the sprint to inspect the increment and adapt the product backlog if needed. This is to encourage feedback and improve collaboration from among the participants of the review meeting. The sprint review will help the product owner identify work that is done and not done. Work not done is placed back in the product backlog for later consideration. Here the development team demonstrates work done and discusses issues they faced during implementation. This meeting gives an opportunity for the product owner to discuss the product backlog. The team collaborates towards future work based on inputs received during the meeting. The sprint review meeting is 4 hours long with a 1 hour preparation time, again assuming a 1 month long sprint. At the end of the sprint review, we should expect a revised product backlog. Sprint retrospective. The sprint retrospective helps to identify improvements in people, processes, and tools. This is conducted at the end of sprint by both the Scrum Master and the team. The participants identify and order major items that went well and potential improvements that can be incorporated for future sprints. Together, they create plan for its implementation and prioritize actionable items into the product backlog. This meeting is limited to a maximum of 3 hours. The attendees to the sprint retrospective include the team, Scrum Master, and the product owner. The goal of sprint retrospective is to identify improvements to implement, which can be considered as the output of this meeting. Product backlog. The product backlog contains the needs of the product owner who keeps it prioritized and current. Among other things, it contains features, enhancements, and bug fixes. The product owner maintains and orders a list of requirements with the assistance of the team. The backlog is dynamic and may constantly evolve to accommodate for the customer's changing business needs, market conditions, or from inputs obtained through the sprint review. The product backlog contains requested features, functions, defect fixes, and enhancements. Each item in the product backlog can be described by its attributes, which is the description, order, and estimate. The product backlog itself is ordered by value, risk, priority, and necessity as determined by the product owner, with assistance from the development team. Sprint backlog. Sprint backlog shows work to be done and only the development team can make changes to it. Recollect that during the sprint planning meeting, a sprint backlog was generated. This contains work committed for the upcoming sprint and consists of tasks and team assignments. Thus, it provides enough detail for tracking during daily Scrum. Earlier, we noted that once a sprint starts, no changes are allowed to the sprint backlog by the customer. On the other hand, only the development team is allowed to update and make changes as required. This backlog should be placed in a highly visible location so that all stakeholders have a clear and real-time picture of the work done. Increment. An increment is the sum of the outputs of all the sprints, and this must always be in a readily realizable state. Since the increment has to provide business value, it must meet the done criteria, which would mean that it is a working product with completed functionality. We discuss what done means in a later chapter. Scrum remains flexible in the fact that the customer may terminate the project if they recognize that enough business value has been derived from this increment. With this, we have covered all aspects of the basic Scrum model. If required, please go back to the particular sections of this presentation to review and revise your understanding. Scaling projects using Scrum. Scrum projects can be scaled through a mechanism of seeding new project teams with experienced team members. Now, how is it done? First, start with a core team. Run a few iterations. This gives sufficient time to build the core infrastructure and test out end-to-end integration, and also develops increments of functionality that the customer can use. Next, create newer teams and seed them with the core team members. In this manner, the core team members carry and share their knowledge with the new teams, thus helping to scale up project. This mechanism can be repeated to grow very large Scrum teams. Scrum of Scrums. A Scrum of Scrums is a mechanism used to coordinate multiple teams working on a single project. How is it done? Each team meets daily for 15 minutes and conducts its own daily Scrum by going through the 3 questions: what was done yesterday, what will be done today, and any impediments that may prevent completion of project work. Next, a representative from each team attends a project-level daily Scrum to help coordination across the many teams working for the same project. Until now, we have discussed extensively on Scrum and its components by going into great details of the Scrum team, Scrum events, and Scrum artifacts. If you are further interested, you may refer to Scrum sources such as at scrum.org for more information. Next, we will move on to another well-known Agile method, extreme programming. XP, Extreme Programming. Extreme Programming, or XP for short, is a software development methodology which is intended to improve software quality and responsiveness to changing customer requirements. XP advocates frequent releases in short development cycles and encourages practices such as test-first development, pair programming, and many others. All this is engineered to deliver business value to the customer early and frequently. XP improves productivity and embraces change. Extreme programming contains 3 roles, 5 values, and 12 practices. Let us move on to discuss these in increasingly greater detail. Extreme programming. Continued. Extreme programming consists of 3 roles, 5 values, and 12 practices. The 3 roles include customer, programmer, and the coach. XP values are courage, communication, simplicity, feedback, and respect. Finally, there are 12 practices that we will cover shortly. Now, let's keep moving along to understand these in greater detail. XP Lifecycle. Let us understand what a typical extreme programming lifecycle looks like. XP consists of short iterations of work where planning, analysis, design, coding, testing, and other activities are performed almost simultaneously and with rapid frequency. Details of what and how of the work to be done is conducted in the planning stage. Activities that occur in the planning stage include clarifying the project vision, creating user stories, constructing a release plan, and managing risks. A meeting where customers prioritize work with the team inputs is called as the planning game. An output of this planning stage is the creation of a detailed plan for the upcoming iteration.
To buy the full course and other services, visit ProplanX.com.
What do you think is the answer?
A Scrum practice which helps the customer with early delivery of valuable software is through A. Short sprint cycles, B. Daily Scrum, C. Sprint reviews, D. Sprint planning. What is your choice? Short sprint cycles. Shorter sprints help deliver software early. Sprint reviews. These are demonstrations of the work done at the end of the sprint. Daily Scrum. This helps to increase communication among team members. Sprint planning. This is to plan what will be done for a given sprint. An initial iteration to set up development environment with no product output is called as A. Iteration 0, B. Iteration, C. Setup iteration, D. Sprint. What is your choice? Iteration 0. This is the term used for the initial setup iteration. Iteration. An iteration is where some work of business value is generated. Setup iteration. This is an incorrect term. Sprint. A sprint is the same as an iteration where a work of business value is generated.
Here are the top benefits why you should buy this course now. Boost your career by preparing for PMI-ACP certification. Pay as you wish, a no-risk offer to you. Multimedia courseware. Realistic mock final exam and practice questions. Extensive testimonials. 21 hours course certificate. Courteous and prompt support. We hope you enjoyed the course. To buy the full course and other services, visit ProplanX.com.
Conclusion. Let us summarize what we learned in this Agile Methods chapter. Scrum and XP are some of the more popular Agile methods. Scrum is supported by its team, events, and artifacts. Scrum team consists of the product owner, development team, and Scrum Master. Scrum event consists of the sprint planning meeting, daily Scrum, sprint review, and the sprint retrospective. Scrum artifacts include product backlog, sprint backlog, and the increment. XP or extreme programming, on the other hand, is supported by its 5 values, 3 roles, and 12 practices. Lean principles include elimination of waste. Kanban is a pull system implemented using a card or sign board. Other Agile methods include Crystal, DSDM, FDD, and AUP. The choice of an Agile method is dependent on various factors including the type of project, constraints, team knowledge, etc. Question answer session. Team, do you have any questions?
Are Agile methodologies applicable beyond software development?
Sure, yes it is. If we go through the history of Agile software development, you will notice concepts such as Lean, Kanban, time boxing, etc. are all from other industries.
Can I use the term project manager instead of Scrum Master? Or, is there a difference?
Yes, both these titles have different connotations. A project manager is traditionally associated with a command and control structure who assigns tasks and tracks each individual's progress on the project. By virtue of their position, they are the implicit leaders for the team. In contrast, the Scrum Master is expected to be a servant leader who uses the Scrum rules and practices to ensure project work is geared towards success. They are responsible for the success of the project and help the product owner and the team in many aspects. They do not control and manage the teams in the traditional sense, but help in the overall facilitation.
To revise, click on the topic.
For a quick recap, click on the term. Agile Methods, a group of iterative and incremental software development methods that are flexible enough to respond to change. Teams collaborate and work on small iterations, creating business value. Agile tooling. Typical tools required in Agile development, such as index cards, display boards, automated unit tests, continuous integration hardware, configuration management systems, and others. Daily Scrum. Daily 15-minute time-boxed event for the entire team to share. 1. What was done since last meeting? 2. What will be done until next meeting? 3. Any impediments? Development team. Set of generalizing specialists who collaborate and self-organize and commit collectively to work for each iteration. They perform estimations, development, testing, and finally demonstrate the work done. Lean. The focus of lean development is eliminate waste, amplify learning, decide as late as possible, deliver as fast as possible, empower the team, build integrity in, and see the whole. Product backlog is an ordered list of requirements for the product maintained by the product owner. Contains features, functions, fixes, and enhancements with estimate and priority information. Product backlog grooming, the act of adding detail, estimates, and order to items in the product backlog. Product owner and the team collaborate on the details of items, review, revise, and update. Product owner, a person who decides on what is being built, the features, the order, identifies the release date, assists in planning, ensures profitability, and accepts or rejects work done. Refactoring, a technique for restructuring code by simplifying the design, but without changing its external behavior by using a suite of automated tests, helps reduce technical debt. Scrum, project management framework that provides value to the customer and addresses complex adaptive problems. Scrum contains Scrum team, Scrum events, and Scrum artifacts. Scrum Master facilitates project work and enforces Scrum theory, practices and rules, enables team collaboration, conducts planning sessions, daily stand-ups and retrospectives.
Great! You made it to the end of the chapter.
Take up the quiz and activities that follow. Download content for offline study.
See you in the next session.